you've felt it, haven't you? That strange, quiet shift underneath everything. Nothing dramatic has happened yet, nothing you could point to and explain to another person without them looking at you like you've lost your mind. But something is different. The air around your life feels heavier and lighter at the same time. Conversations that used to interest you now feel hollow. People you used to enjoy being around now drain you within minutes. You wake up some nights at exactly the same time, staring at the ceiling, heart calm but mind wide awake, as if something just nudged you out of sleep on purpose. You've probably told yourself it's stress. You've probably told yourself it's just a phase, that you need more sleep, more distraction, more noise to drown it out. But deep down, in the part of you that doesn't lie to you the way your mind does, you already know. Something is happening behind the scenes of your life, and whatever it is, it did not start today. It has been building for a while, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to notice. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to walk you through is not some vague spiritual pep talk designed to make you feel special for 5 minutes and then forgotten by tomorrow. This is a pattern, a very specific, very consistent pattern that shows up right before a person's life changes in a way they never saw coming. It has shown up in the lives of people who went on to build things that outlasted them, people who found a purpose so much bigger than the small, comfortable life they were living before, and people who, for reasons they couldn't explain at the time, were being quietly prepared for something. If even one of the signs I'm about to describe has happened to you in the last few months, don't turn this off. Because the sign that comes near the end of this video is the one almost nobody recognizes until it's already changed everything, and I don't want you to miss it. Let's start with the one that hurts the most, because it's usually the first thing people notice and the last thing they understand. People are leaving, not all at once, not with slammed doors and screaming arguments, but quietly, one by one, drifting out of your life in ways that feel almost too smooth to be a coincidence. A friendship that used to feel effortless suddenly feels like work. A group chat you used to check first thing in the morning goes silent, and you realize you haven't missed it. Someone you thought would be in your life forever simply isn't there anymore, and when you try to trace back the exact moment it changed, you can't find one. It just happened, slowly, the way a tide goes out without you noticing the water moving. Here's what almost nobody tells you about this stage, and it's the part that matters most. This isn't punishment. It isn't a sign that you did something wrong or that you're becoming a worse version of yourself. It is a clearing. Think about it practically for a second. If you're about to be handed a bigger version of your life, a version with more responsibility, more visibility, more weight to carry, you cannot carry it while also dragging along every relationship that only worked because you were smaller, quieter, easier to fit into a corner. Some people were only ever meant to walk with you through one season, and that season is ending. It feels like loss because from where you're standing, that's exactly what it looks like. But zoom out far enough, and you'll see it for what it actually is. Space being made, deliberately, on purpose, whether you asked for it or not. Now here's where it gets stranger, and I want you to really pay attention to this next part, because this is where the pattern stops looking like coincidence and starts looking like something else entirely. Numbers. You start seeing the same numbers everywhere. Not once, not twice, but constantly, until it becomes almost impossible to ignore. You glance at the clock, and it's 11. You look again a few hours later, and it's 3:33. You get a receipt, and the total is some strange repeating sequence. A license plate in front of you at a red light has the exact numbers that have been following you around for weeks. At first, you brush it off. Everyone sees repeating numbers sometimes, right? But then it keeps happening. Day after day. Different numbers, different contexts, same unmistakable feeling that you're being shown something, even if you can't decode exactly what. I'm not here to tell you what each number means specifically, because frankly, that's a rabbit hole with 1,000 different interpretations depending on who you ask, and most of it is guesswork dressed up as certainty. What I will tell you is this: the pattern itself is the message. When your environment starts repeating a signal to you over and over, whether it's a number, a phrase, a symbol, or a name you keep hearing in completely unrelated conversations, it means your attention is being redirected. Something wants you to slow down and notice. Something wants you paying closer attention to the moment you're in, right now, instead of sleepwalking through your days the way most people do. And if you've been seeing those repeating numbers, that's not your imagination working overtime. That's your life trying to get your attention before something bigger arrives. Keep watching, because the next sign is one that most people misread completely. And if you've been going through it, you've probably been blaming yourself for something that was never actually your fault. Your old life is starting to fall apart, not in some catastrophic, everything burns down kind of way, though for some people it does look exactly like that. For most people, it's smaller and sneakier than that. The job that used to feel secure suddenly feels unstable, or you get laid off out of nowhere after years of steady work. Plans you had locked in for months get cancelled at the last minute, for reasons completely outside your control. A move you were counting on falls through. A relationship that seemed stable starts cracking in places you never expected. It feels like the universe picked this exact moment in your life to test how much you can absorb before you break. Here is the piece that changes everything once you understand it. None of this is random cruelty. It's redirection disguised as disaster. Every structure that is currently collapsing in your life was built for the version of you that existed before this shift started. That job fit the old you. That relationship fit the old you. That plan, that routine, that identity you were comfortable wearing. It all fit a person who is quietly and visibly being replaced by someone stronger, someone more awake, someone capable of holding more than they ever thought possible. You cannot build the next chapter of your life on top of a foundation designed for a smaller version of yourself. So piece by piece, sometimes gently and sometimes violently, that old foundation gets removed. It's terrifying while it's happening. Almost everyone going through it feels like they're failing, like they're falling behind, like everyone else has it figured out except them. But if you look back at anyone who ever built something extraordinary, you'll find this exact chapter in their story. The chapter where everything fell apart right before it came together in a way they never could have planned. Now, don't look away yet, because what I'm about to tell you next is the part that convinced me this pattern is real and not just something people say to feel better about hard times. Your dreams are changing. Maybe you've noticed you're remembering them more vividly than you used to, in colors and details so sharp they feel more real than your waking life. Maybe you keep having the same dream, or variations of the same dream, over and over night after night, like your subconscious is trying to hand you a message it doesn't know how to say any other way. Maybe you're dreaming about people you haven't thought about in years, or places you've never actually been to but somehow recognize. Some people start having dreams that feel less like dreams and more like previews, moments that later show up in their waking life, almost exactly the way they saw them while asleep. That kind of thing is easy to dismiss as coincidence when it happens once. It's a lot harder to dismiss when it starts happening on repeat. There's a reason this happens during a period of deep internal change. Your conscious mind, the part of you running your to-do lists and your grocery runs and your work deadlines, is not built to process a shift this significant while you're awake and distracted. So the processing happens while you sleep, when the noise of daily life goes quiet and the deeper part of you finally has room to speak. That's why the dreams feel so loud right now. It's not that something new and mystical switched on inside you overnight. It's that the part of you that has always been trying to communicate is finally being heard. Because for the first time in a long time, you're actually still enough to listen. Here's another one. And this one tends to sneak up on people because it looks like something is wrong with them, when actually it's the opposite. You're exhausted in a way that doesn't match your schedule. You're not doing anything more physically demanding than usual, maybe even less. And yet, some days you feel like you've run a marathon before you've even gotten out of bed. Your body feels heavy, your thoughts feel foggy. You crave more quiet, more solitude, more time doing absolutely nothing. And it doesn't feel lazy, it feels necessary, almost urgent. Like your system is demanding a kind of rest that sleep alone can't give you. Think about what happens to anything before it grows. A muscle has to be broken down before it rebuilds stronger. A seed has to sit in complete darkness, using up everything it has, before it has the strength to push through the soil. Your body and your mind are going through something similar right now, even if nobody can see it from the outside. You are integrating something, processing something, rebuilding something at a level most people never even think about. That takes energy, real energy.
The kind that doesn't show up on a calendar or a to-do list, but drains you all the same. If you've been unusually tired lately despite doing everything right, it's worth considering that your exhaustion isn't a malfunction. It might be the exact evidence that something significant is happening beneath the surface.
Something your body is trying to keep up with, while your conscious mind is still catching up to what's going on. I need you to keep watching, because everything I've told you so far has just been building toward this next part, and this is the one that ties every single sign together into something you can't unsee once you notice it. You've started noticing patterns everywhere. A phrase you'd never heard before shows up in a conversation, then in a book, then on a random sign you drive past the same afternoon. A stranger says something to you in passing that answers a question you've been silently wrestling with for weeks. You think about a person you haven't spoken to in years, and somehow within days they reach out, or you run into them, or their name comes up out of nowhere. It's not one coincidence. It's a chain of them, close together, too close together to comfortably explain away as random chance. Here's what's actually going on. And it's simpler than most people expect. Your awareness has widened. Most of your life, you were tuned to notice only what was directly useful for survival and routine: work, errands, small talk, deadlines. That's a narrow bandwidth, and it filters out almost everything else. But when a person starts going through the kind of internal shift we've been talking about, that bandwidth widens. You start picking up on connections that were always there, threads that were always weaving through your life, except now you're finally paying close enough attention to see them. It's not that the universe suddenly started sending you messages. It's that you finally turned the volume up loud enough to hear what was always being said. This is also usually the point where people start feeling like they don't quite fit anywhere anymore. And if that's you right now, I want you to really hear this part. You go to the places you used to enjoy, and something feels off. The conversations that used to hold your attention now feel small, almost like background noise. You scroll through your old interests, the shows, the hobbies, the version of fun you used to chase, and none of it lands the way it used to. It's not that something is wrong with you. It's that you've outgrown the container you used to fit into, and your mind hasn't finished building the new one yet. So for a while, you're stuck in an uncomfortable in-between. Too changed to go back to who you were, not fully arrived at who you're becoming. That gap is one of the loneliest parts of this whole process, and almost nobody warns you about it in advance. There's one more shift most people notice around this stage, and it tends to catch them off guard, because it doesn't feel like something happening to them, it feels like something happening through them. You start sensing other people's moods before they say a single word. Someone walks into a room and you know instantly that something is wrong, even if their face is calm and their voice is steady. You pick up on tension in a conversation before either person involved has raised their voice. You find yourself absorbing other people's stress, other people's sadness, other people's anger, carrying it around in your own body for hours after you've left them, wondering why you suddenly feel exhausted or on edge for no reason you can point to. This isn't you becoming overly sensitive or too much, no matter how many times you've been told that in the past. It's the natural result of the same widening awareness we talked about earlier. When your attention expands enough to notice repeating numbers and strange coincidences in the world around you, it also expands enough to notice the emotional undercurrents running through the people around you, the ones most people are too distracted to pick up on. The uncomfortable part is that nobody hands you an instruction manual for this. You're left to figure out, usually the hard way, how to stay open without absorbing everything that passes through you. That skill takes time to build. But the fact that you're feeling this at all, the fact that you're picking up on things other people walk straight past without noticing, tells you something important about where you currently stand in this process. And then there's the strangest one of all, the one people almost never bring up because it sounds too abstract to say out loud. But if you're going through this shift, you already know exactly what I mean. Time has started behaving differently. Some days blur together so completely you can barely remember what happened yesterday, let alone last week. And then, out of nowhere, a single ordinary moment, a conversation, a walk, a quiet afternoon doing nothing in particular, stretches out and feels enormous, like your whole life is somehow contained inside it. You glance at a clock and an hour has vanished without explanation.
You sit with a thought for what feels like 5 minutes and discover 45 have passed. It's disorienting, and it's very hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. Because on paper, nothing about your schedule has changed at all. What's actually happening is that your relationship to the present moment is shifting. Most people spend the overwhelming majority of their lives either replaying the past or rehearsing the future, which is exactly why time feels like it's slipping through their fingers, one identical day folding into the next. When a person starts waking up the way you're waking up right now, that habit starts to loosen. You spend more time actually inside your life instead of mentally somewhere else. And the strange side effect of that is time itself starts to feel different, less like a straight line rushing past you, and more like something with texture, something you can actually feel yourself moving through. It's uncomfortable at first because it's unfamiliar, but it is not a malfunction. It is one of the clearest signs that you are becoming more present than you have been in a very long time, maybe more present than you've ever been. Now, if you've made it this far, and if even 2 or 3 of these signs have shown up in your own life recently, I want to tell you something that might be hard to hear, but I think you're ready for it. This kind of shift, the kind we've been walking through together, has never once in recorded history come without resistance first. Every person who ever went on to build something that mattered, something that outlasted the small, safe version of their life, went through a period that looked exactly like falling apart before it looked like anything else. Relationships they thought were permanent ended. Plans they had counted on collapsed. Their body and mind pushed them toward rest and reflection at the exact moment their old life demanded more output than ever. From the outside, it looked like failure. From the inside, it felt like failure too, most of the time. It's only in hindsight, looking backward instead of forward, that the pattern reveals itself for what it actually was. Preparation disguised as breakdown. This is the part where I need to be honest with you, because it would be easy to end this video by telling you that everything happening to you right now is glamorous, magical, effortless proof that you're special. It isn't. What's happening to you right now is hard. It's disorienting. It asks you to let go of things you were comfortable holding on to, and it doesn't hand you a replacement immediately, which is exactly why it feels so unstable. You are not being punished for something you did wrong. You are also not entitled to some grand, easy destiny, just because you noticed a few strange coincidences. What's actually happening is much simpler, and honestly much more respectable than either of those extremes. You are being asked to grow into a version of yourself capable of carrying more than you currently can. That's it. That's the whole secret behind every sign we've talked about. The people leaving, the falling apart plans, the exhaustion, the vivid dreams, the strange coincidences, all of it points toward the same quiet truth. Something in you is expanding, and your outer life is scrambling to catch up. So what do you actually do with all of this? Not in some abstract, someday sense, but starting today. Starting with whatever is happening in your life right now. First, stop fighting the clearing. If people are drifting away, let them go without chasing them down, demanding an explanation you may never get. Not every ending needs closure to be valid. Some relationships simply complete their purpose and step aside, so something else has room to arrive. Holding onto a connection past its season doesn't preserve it, it just delays the space you need for what's coming next. Second, start paying attention on purpose instead of by accident. If you keep seeing the same numbers, the same names, the same themes surfacing in unrelated places, write them down. Not because you need to decode some cosmic riddle immediately, but because the simple act of noticing trains your mind to stay present. And presence is exactly what this stage of your life is asking from you. Most people miss the signs they're being shown, not because the signs weren't clear, but because they were too busy, too distracted, too committed to autopilot to actually look up. Third, let your exhaustion be information instead of failure. If your body is asking for more rest, more quiet, more time alone than it used to, give it what it's asking for without guilt. You are not falling behind by resting. You are integrating something significant, and integration cannot be rushed, no matter how much you'd like to speed through the uncomfortable parts. Fourth, and this is the one people resist the most, stop trying to force the old version of your life back into place. When a job falls apart, when a plan collapses, when a relationship ends before you were ready, The instinct is to scramble and rebuild exactly what you had as fast as possible. Resist that instinct. What fell apart because it was built for someone you're no longer becoming. Rebuilding it identically just delays the inevitable. Better to sit in the uncertainty a little longer than to rush back into a life that no longer fits. Fifth, stop treating the thing you keep avoiding as a someday project and start treating it as a today conversation, even if the version of it you can manage today is small. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow or upend your entire life in one dramatic move. You just have to stop pretending you don't hear it. Open the document you keep closing. Send the message you keep drafting and deleting. Spend 20 minutes on the thing that scares you a little. Not because 20 minutes will change your life on its own, but because it breaks the pattern of avoidance that's been quietly costing you more energy than the work itself ever would. And finally, trust the timing even when it makes absolutely no sense to you. This is the hardest instruction of all, because everything about the modern world trains you to want answers immediately, resolution immediately, certainty immediately. This process doesn't work on that timeline. It works on its own timeline, one that often looks frustratingly slow from the inside and perfectly orchestrated only once you're far enough down the road to look back and see the whole shape of it. The waiting is not empty. It is not wasted. It is the exact period during which everything you'll need for what comes next is quietly being assembled, most of it in places you can't see yet. Somewhere in the parts of your life you can't currently observe, conversations are happening, doors are being built. People who will matter to your future are living out their own ordinary days, completely unaware that your paths are about to cross. None of that shows up on a timeline you can check. It only shows up after the fact, when you finally look back and realize the waiting was never wasted time at all. There's one final sign, and I've saved it for last on purpose. Because once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it in your own life. There's something you keep avoiding. Maybe it's a project you keep starting and abandoning. Maybe it's a conversation you know you need to have but keep finding reasons to postpone. Maybe it's a version of yourself you glimpse sometimes in quiet moments, doing work that actually matters to you, instead of just paying the bills, and then you talk yourself out of it before lunch. It keeps coming back. You bury it under busyness, under other people's expectations, under the comfortable excuse that now isn't the right time, and it keeps surfacing anyway. Weeks later, months later, in the middle of the night when everything else is quiet enough for it to finally get a word in. That persistence is not nagging. It is not your anxiety playing tricks on you, even though it can feel exactly like that in the moment. It is the clearest, most direct signal in this entire list, because unlike repeating numbers or vivid dreams, this one doesn't require any interpretation at all. It is telling you, in plain language, exactly what it wants from you. The reason it keeps coming back, despite every excuse you throw at it, is that it is not attached to your current circumstances. It doesn't care that you're busy. It doesn't care that the timing feels wrong. It is attached to who you are becoming, and it will keep resurfacing patiently for as long as it takes until you finally stop avoiding it and start walking toward it instead. If you've recognized yourself in even half of what I've described today, I want you to understand what that actually means. It doesn't mean you're destined for fame or fortune or some dramatic public transformation the whole world will witness. It means something much quieter and in a lot of ways much more meaningful. It means you're paying attention. It means you haven't numbed yourself completely to the parts of life that don't fit neatly into logic and routine. And that, more than any single sign we've talked about today, is the thing that actually separates the people who go on to build something real from the people who spend their entire lives waiting for permission to start. Something is happening behind the scenes of your life right now. You felt it. You've probably felt it for longer than you've been willing to admit, even to yourself. The people leaving, the numbers repeating, the plans collapsing, the dreams getting louder, the exhaustion that doesn't match your schedule, the sense that you no longer fit the life you built for yourself. None of it is random. None of it is happening to punish you. All of it is happening because you are being prepared, quietly, carefully, for a version of your life that the old you would not have been ready to hold. Don't ignore this. Not the discomfort, not the strange coincidences, not the quiet, unshakable feeling that something in you is changing, whether you give it permission or not. Pay attention to it. Sit with it. Let it do what it's trying to do,
Because whatever is happening behind the scenes right now, it isn't finished yet. And the version of your life waiting on the other side of it is closer than you think.